Oh god. Hi, I'm Mark J. Judge, and I need to get more sleep. So, alignment is probably one of the most dead horse topics on YouTube D&D. It's something everyone talks about a lot. You can find dozens of takes on it if you look it up. But I think what I'm about to say is something that I actually haven't heard anyone else say, and it has greatly improved roleplay in some of my campaigns. So, stay tuned. Alignment as a mechanic has been around in this game for a long time, but as the game has sort of gradually shifted out of dungeon delving and number crunching and toward this modern, character driven, narrative based critical role thing that we're all doing right now, it definitely seems like some people are starting to question the actual role of alignment and if it is too simple or restrictive for the complex characters that people are actually trying to create at their tables more often today than not. It seems to me that a lot of the mechanics of your alignment don't matter at most tables anymore. It's mostly just a guide to help the players determine how they should be role-playing their character. And as long as we're using it for just that, I certainly do at my table, why don't we make it a little more robust and actually make it something that ties directly into roleplay? Now, this isn't a complete reimagining. I am still just using the standard 3x3 grid that the player handbook provides. This isn't a bigger grid, this isn't a different grid. I am still using the basic system. I just want to propose a way to look at it more complexly, because I think a lot of us have run into the issue where the alignment just there's no real way to cram a complex character into one of those 9 boxes and have it make total sense. So this is just a bit of a deeper way of looking at it. If you've kind of just abandoned worrying about alignment at your table entirely, maybe this will give you a bit of fresh air on the topic and start looking at that 3x3 grid with a little more grace and find ways to use it. In addition, this method that I am proposing ties your alignment, or alignments, we'll get there in a minute, to the nice little chunk of roleplay stuff that is on the corner of your player character sheet, your personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. If you've been making characters for a while, or if you've been DMing, you maybe have just forgotten about these, or whenever you make a character, you write up the backstory and that kind of thing yourself. You don't really worry about filling out these little 4 things on the side that kind of just get you started. But I think what the book proposes with those 4 things are actually really useful, and if we find a way for alignment to tie into them in an interesting and engaging way, it can be a really useful guide to roleplay and a good way to brainstorm and start making characters in the first place. So, what is this system? Simply put, I call this alignment crosses. Does the name really mean anything? No, it kind of just makes sense in my head. But basically what you're going to do is pick 2 alignments instead of just 1. You are going to pick a dominant and a secondary alignment for your character. And the ways that your dominant and secondary alignment show themselves can manifest in a lot of different ways. So, let's dig into this. First thing you're asking is probably why pick 2, especially if they're 2 alignments that conflict, like lawful good and chaotic neutral, for example.
Sacred Jedi text!
Well, it's because people and characters, as we all know, are not that simple. We are not composed of just a sheet of traits that all go together. In fact, most people at their core are composed of opposite traits. Perhaps this sounds strange. It certainly sounded a little off to me the first time I heard it, but this advice that characters are actually composed of opposites at their core has really helped me write characters the past few years with a lot more nuance and reality and relatability to them. So what does this actually mean? Well, most people, once you get to know them, there's a few stereotypes or tropes that you can put them into. There's, the class clown, the funny guy, there's the pensive, quiet person, all the boxes that we generally put people and characters into. But then you have the people you really know, your close friends, or maybe your close enemies, or your family, and you start to realize that there is something deeper beyond the surface that they have, some sort of opposite. This is not to say that everyone's putting on a front, obviously, and not being them true selves. It's just to say that most people, the way they act 80 or 90% of the time, fits into an archetype. And you really know them when you see that archetype break a little bit. You see their actual core self start to show, and it doesn't quite go with the tropes and stereotypes that you assumed about them. I'll use popular examples to illustrate this. The hobbits in Lord of the Rings are timid, a little easily scared, out of their element throughout most of the story, but that is not their true core. The true core of them is that whenever conflict arises, especially in the second and third parts of that series, they are the bravest people on the battlefield. They run directly into conflict. They sacrifice themselves for their friends.
For Frodo.
And that's not a portrayal of their character. That's who they've always been. The hobbits have always been the brave people in the story, but we're just seeing that now. And now we have a complex character where there's an exterior archetype and an interior true self that are opposite in some way, but they really start to lock together and make a lot of sense and make those characters feel compelling. Another example of this is Han Solo in the very first Star Wars movie. He's a good character for the first 90% of the movie. I mean, he's snarky and fun. He only cares about himself. He's a bit of a criminal bad boy, and that's all fun. But what makes him good and great is that he comes back, right? I mean, at the end of the movie, he shows that he has a core character that doesn't always match his exterior archetype. He comes back and helps the fight, proving that at his core, there is truly something about him that is not just chaotic neutral, to use D&D terms.
I like the sound of that.
Now, you could just say that these examples are character development. The hobbits go from timid to brave. Han Solo goes from chaotic neutral to chaotic good. But I think it's a little more complicated than that, and this is where the one alignment, as opposed to multiple, can start to fall short. I think the biggest example is Walter White from Breaking Bad, one of the most complex characters ever seen on TV from a moral standpoint.
You're goddamn right.
Was he always chaotic neutral and just acting lawful evil? Was he chaotic good at the beginning and then slowly became chaotic neutral? Is he lawful evil with moments of chaotic evil? Did he change at some point? Is this a reveal of his true character? I mean, you can go on and on about this. So absolutely, if it makes sense for your character at some point in the campaign to just change alignments because they have changed as a person, absolutely go for it. I'm sure you and your DM are going to think that that's incredible and a sign that the campaign has had a story that really mattered and your character is engaging with it. But as your gateway into the character, I think it helps to actually think of people having two alignment forces within them. One that is typically showing, and one that is deep within. Plus, if you give yourself two alignments at the beginning, that room for ambiguity, complexity, and growth is already built in, and maybe it'll end up working for you and actually help you create a character that has more potential to change than just your stock trope lawful good paladin or chaotic good rogue, for example. And maybe if you've been making characters for a while, this is a way to look back on characters you've made in the past and re-examine them. Think about what two alignments you might have plugged into them subconsciously. Now, here's just an addendum before I get into the specific examples and how this ties into your traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. Not every character needs this. I'm simply providing this as a tool that I have used and some of my players have used before to help us create more complex characters. But the truth is, Captain America is amazing because he just stays lawful good the entire time, right? Samwise from Lord of the Rings is amazing because no matter what happens, he is Frodo's best friend and that doesn't change. Sometimes having a straightforward alignment in a complex world is an excellent thing, and I am not harping on that at all. If that is working for your campaign and your character, awesome, and you should definitely go for it. But if you do want to try out this system, here are the specific ways I think you can use it. I'm going to list 4.
But we're going to talk about that
Next time. My name is Mark J. Judge. It's D&D and bye. Oh my god. Oh man, I need to not sound so angry.